Good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, we are sitting as the Committee of Adjustment. If we haven't changed our nameplates around, please do so. I would like to call this meeting to order at 2:01. Our first order of business is our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges their resilience and their long-standing contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Sandra, if I could turn to you, please, for the explanation of our process for today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As each application comes forward, the chairman will announce the title thereof. And I, the planning coordinator, will provide a synopsis of the planning report. The planning report is available on the township website should you wish to review the whole thing. The floor will then be open to the public. The order of speaking is as follows. Those persons in support of the application. Those persons in opposition to the application. Those persons seeking clarification. And the applicant will have an opportunity to speak to the application and the comments at that time. Please note that all persons wishing to speak to the application must address their comments and questions to the chair. We advise that before speaking, you must clearly and slowly state your name and address so that the record is complete. We also require that you come forward to the podium and speak directly into the microphone so that your comments and questions can be appropriately recorded. Following public input, members of the committee may make comments or ask questions as they deem necessary. The Committee of Adjustment may make a decision on the application this afternoon. The reasons for their decision and the impact of public input will be provided by the committee members. Those persons requesting a copy of the notice of decision must do so in writing to myself, Secretary Treasurer of the committee, or you may sign the file sheet that is in the lobby. Please be sure you're signing the correct file sheet to obtain the information that you require. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sandra. Our next order of business is to confirm the agenda. However, before we go that route, I can advise that we have received a request for the removal of a application from our current agenda. It's not withdrawn, it's just removed at this point in time. And that is in respect to B05-23, the butter application. And it's will not be dealt with today on today's agenda. So our confirmation of our agenda is as modified. Moved by Mark, seconded by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Item 5 on our agenda. Declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Is there any to be declared today?
Mr. Mayor, I did have a declaration of pecuniary interest filled out, but in light of the fact that agenda item has been removed, I guess I don't have a conflict anymore, but I do have it.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that will be noted that that has occurred. Any further comments on declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. Item 6 on our agenda, approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, dated March 14th, 2023. They have been circulated. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, could I have a motion for approval, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by John. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. Application in the Wilson Bain name being application B01-23, consent to sever. Sandra, would you please proceed with your planning report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in respect of 9467 County Road 2 East. Part Lot 6, Concession B. The notice of public meeting was circulated to the public on March 27, 2023, and the signs are posted on the property on March 29, 2023, in accordance with the regulations of the Planning Act. This application was before the committee on March 14, 2023, wherein the public was heard and the decision of the committee was deferred to permit staff opportunity to further review the governing documents. The application is seeking to sever approximately 1.85 acres of land with 175 feet of frontage on County Road 2 as a new residential lot creation. As previously discussed, the proposal does appear to be in keeping with provincial policy statements with respect to developing within the rural character of the area, and that on-site sewage services and on-site water services could be provided on a parcel of this size. In addition to the previous review and following the comments from the public last month, the provincial policy statement was further reviewed with respect to a number of different items that need to be examined for application. And it was found that the proposal does appear to be in keeping with the listed items. The opponent of the application did also speak to section 2.6, cultural heritage and archaeology. We do acknowledge that the abutting property to the east is designated on the Ontario Heritage Act. However, the proposed new lot creation for residential use does not appear to be impactful to the reasons why the New Lodge Farm Manor was designated. The opponent spoke to section 126, land use compatibility, and document D63 from the provincial government. The proposal again appears to be in keeping with that document, and I'll speak more to that in a moment. The opponent also spoke to section 132, employment areas. The proposed residential development will have minimal to no impact on the current or future development potential of the industrial land to the west, abutting to the west. And so again, it's the opinion of this department that the proposal is in keeping with the provincial policy statement. The Ontario Ministry of Environment and Energy Guidelines D63 separation distances is a guide for land use planning authorities on how to measure recommended distances between industrial areas and sensitive land uses, such as residential uses. There are recommended separation distances, and there are recommended potential areas of influence. In reviewing this proposal for new lot creation with respect to a class 3 industrial land use, which is large scale manufacturing, it was determined that with or without this new lot, there is no way that a class 3 industrial use could be situated on the abutting rural industrially zoned parcel. The existing houses in the area already give almost a negative building envelope for a class 3 industrial use, given the required setbacks. With respect to a class 1, I will jump around a bit. With respect to a class 1 industrial land use, there would be absolutely no impacts on the development potential on the industrial parcel with the new lot being created. With respect to a class 2 industrial use, which is a medium scale manufacturing and processing institution, there's a minimum of 70 meters separation distance for sensitive land uses. And I have measured, if you refer to the diagram on page 6 of 12 of the report, I've measured the best of my ability, the 70-meter setback from the existing houses in the area and the new proposed lot line. Given that the industrial zone requires a 3-meter side setback from the property line between the parent property and the industrial use. And that the 70 meters from the proposed line, sorry, this is getting confusing, I'm sorry. 70 meters from the proposed line, there is less than a 5 meter impact onto the development availability of the industrial land. To me, this is negligible, in my opinion. However, there's an opportunity, should the applicant wish to agree to this, and again, he would have to discuss this with committee, reducing the size of his proposed lot by 5 meters, probably less than 5 meters. And that would absolutely negate any impact that the new lot would have on the industrial parcel. I also do note that there are no current applications for development of this industrial parcel. There have been no requests for pre-consultation or any studies or tests submitted for review. I also reviewed the township official plan again, and the proposal does appear to be in keeping with the township policies for development. I looked at some employment areas. I looked at rail and noise vibration, in addition to everything that I looked at a month ago. And the proposal, again, does appear to be in keeping with the intent of the policy statement. The zoning bylaw for the township, the new property will need to be rezoned to rural residential, recognizing the lot dimensions and the proposed use of the property. Minimum distance separation calculations from the surrounding animal farms have been completed, and the proposed lot is far outside the protected areas of the 3 animal farming operations. So it's the opinion of this department that the proposal is in keeping with the township zoning bylaw as well. The agency comments, comments did not change from a month ago. Township Building Department had no objection. Conservation Authority had no objection. I did receive additional comments from Northumberland County. In summary, the county and provincial policies allow for limited lot creation within rural areas if it can demonstrate the township's satisfaction, no adverse impact on existing livestock facilities. The county requires the applicant to apply for an entrance permit and setback permits, which is standard. The applicant must convey a road allowance to the county, which is fairly standard for them. The proposed lot is appropriately sized to accommodate on-site sewage and water, and that does appear to be the case. Permits are required, and they do recommend, they have no objection to the proposed severance and recommend that the following condition be added, and that is with respect to road widening. So I have included that in my final conclusions. My conclusion is that upon review of the application in relation to the provincial policy statement, township official plan, and zoning bylaw, it's the opinion of this department that the proposal does meet the intent of the documents for new lot creation. It's recommended the application be granted provisional consent, subject to the following conditions being imposed. The applicant shall submit 3 hard copies, a PDF copy, and an AutoCAD copy of the positive reference plan, identifying the newly created lot. The applicant shall pursue a successful completion of the Planning Act application, rezoning the property. The applicant shall submit to the satisfaction of the county a plan that illustrates the minimum road widening of 18.25 meters from the center line of County Road 2 along the frontage of the retained and severed parcel. The road widening must also be free and clear of all encumbrances and deeded to the county. The applicant shall provide proof of payment in full of the taxes, and the applicant shall provide 3 hard copies of new deeds within 2 years of the giving of written notice. In addition to my report, I have received 2 letters, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please continue.
The first letter is in support of the application, and it is from Jennifer Current, and I will have to check with her for her address for the record. Dear Chairman Gibb and members of the Committee of Adjustment, further to concerns raised at the March 14, 2023 Committee of Adjustment regarding application B0123, which proposes the creation of a new vacant 0.74 hectare rural residential lot and potential land use conflicts with the adjacent property to the immediate west. I would like to address this issue. An adjacent property owner raised concerns regarding compatibility between a new rural residential use and a vacant, undeveloped, unserviced property zoned rural industrial, and referred to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks Guideline D6 compatibility between industrial facilities. Guideline D6 is intended to be applied when making land use planning decisions to prevent or minimize future land uses between industrial and sensitive land uses. According to guideline D6, the guideline applies to all types of proposed, committed, and or existing land uses which have the potential to produce point source and or fugitive air emission, such as noise, vibration, odor, dust, and others, either through normal operations, procedures, maintenance, or storage activities, and or from associated traffic transportation. There is no existing industrial use on the property in question, nor has an application for site approval been submitted to the township, nor a building permit applied for or issued. There has been no pre-consultation with county or township planning staff regarding development of this property. An application for site plan approval for rural industrial property will require the completion of a number of technical studies, which may include traffic study, hydrogeological study, geotechnical study, archaeological study, environmental impact study, stormwater management study. Development of a new industrial use must take into consideration existing residential uses. The proposed severed lot is located approximately 63 meters from the vacant rural industrial property. There are 4 existing dwellings located closer to that property than the proposed severed lot. 1570 Joe Oliver Road, 62 meters. 9334 County Road 2, 48 meters. 9303 County Road 2, immediately adjacent. 9299 County Road 2, 23 meters. Future development of the unserviced rural industrial property will have to take into consideration these existing residential uses. The proposed severed lot will pose no additional constraints on the future development, since there are already existing incompatible land uses which must be taken into consideration. And I have also received a letter of opposition. And this is from Mr. Carol Shaw, who did speak a month ago. I'm in receipt of the updated staff report that was posted to your website late Thursday afternoon. I acknowledge and appreciate that considerable effort has gone into this report to address my concerns. Since the staff report was not received until the last hour of the business week, I was unable to consult my professional advisors until Monday, and I have run out of time to prepare an adequate response. I disagree with the final recommendation and several cited aspects of the report. I hope the following comments will influence the committee to deny this severance application. 1, page 5 of the staff report deals with minimum separation distances between industrial and residential lot. It states a class 2 industrial use, medium scale manufacturing and processing, has a 70-meter minimum separation distance and a 300-meter potential influence area. As I stated on March 14, the distance between the existing industrial lot and the proposed residential lot is about 62 meters. I submit that the proposed application has not met the minimum separation distance between the existing 28-acre industrial lot and the proposed residential lot. 2, page 5 of the staff report twice states that this severance results in negligible impacts to the development potential of the industrial land. I strongly disagree. Currently, my eastern lot line is about 116 meters away from the nearest residential lot line, being New Lodge Manor. If the new residential lot is allowed, my eastern lot line will be about 62 meters from the closest residential lot line. 116 meters to 62 meters is a significant change, which will impact on the potential mitigation measures of berms, fences, vegetation, etc. Further, if a residential lot is allowed, the owner of that residential lot might object to any development on the industrial property. Perhaps the mitigation measures and potential objections could arise could arise from this new residential owner that will be what breaks the decision of a developer to utilize this industrial lot versus another industrial lot. 3. Page 3 of the staff report addresses the cultural heritage concern. The report states 2.6.3, planning authority shall not permit development and site alteration on adjacent lands to protected heritage property, except where the proposed development and site alteration has been evaluated, and it has been demonstrated that the heritage attributes of the protected heritage property will be conserved. This provision relates to adjacent lands and thus the applicant's land. The exception for site alteration of adjacent lands has not been satisfied. The report makes no mention of an evaluation or demonstration that the heritage attributes will be conserved. New Lodge Manor is a magnificent heritage property, and it deserves the consideration and protection of the township. 4. The purpose of my March 14 presentation about this application was to alert the staff and committee that the industrial aspects of the western neighbor and the heritage aspect of the eastern neighbor had not been considered. No changes to the staff recommendations have occurred. And it appears that the April 11 staff report is dismissing my concerns, even though I have strongly objected. If the severance application is accepted, it will be sending a signal to me and perhaps the community at large that the township disregards the interests of significant employment, industrial, and heritage property. I echo what I said on March 14, that according to Provincial Policy Statement 2020, the township is mandated to protect those interests. 5, my advisors suggested that I also mention that insufficient and/or no consideration has been given to the criteria set out in Section 5124 of the Planning Act. I will appreciate if you inform me of the committee's decision. Respectfully, Carol Shaw. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I believe I addressed the noted sections in my report, the noted sections of Mr. Shaw's previous presentation. I have looked up Section 5124 of the Planning Act, and it is in respect of plans of subdivision. However, Section 53 of the Planning Act regulates consents, and it does refer back to Section 50 and 51 being subdivisions. So they do work hand in hand. Section 5124 states, in considering a draft plan of subdivision, regard shall be had, among other matters, to the health, safety, convenience, accessibility for persons with disabilities, and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of the municipality, and to A, the effect of the development of the proposed subdivision on matters of provincial interest, B, whether the proposed subdivision is premature or in the public interest, C, whether the plan conforms to the official plan and adjacent plans of subdivision, if any, D, the suitability of the land for the purpose for which it is to be subdivided, D.1, if any affordable housing units are being proposed, the suitability of the proposed units for affordable housing, E, the number, width, location, and proposed grades and elevation of highways and the adequacy of them, and the highways linking the highways in the proposed subdivision with the established highway system in the vicinity and the adequacy of them. F, the dimensions and shapes of the proposed lots. G, the restrictions or proposed restrictions, if any, on the land proposed to be subdivided, or the buildings and structures proposed to be erected on it, and the restrictions, if any, on adjoining lands. H, conservation of natural resources and flood control. I, the adequacy of utilities and municipal services. J, the adequacy of school sites. K, the area of land, if any, within the proposed subdivision that, exclusive of highways, is to be conveyed or dedicated for public purposes. L, the extent to which the plan's designs optimizes the available supply, means of supplying efficient use and conservation of energy. And M, the interrelationship between the design of the proposed plan of subdivision, and site plan control matters relating to any development on the land, if the land is also located within the site plan control area designated under section 41 sub 2 of the Act. I believe my review of the application for consent to sever does address any of the applicable matters that have been listed. Anything of provincial interest has been addressed by the county. A new residential lot is within the public interest. The proposal is in keeping with the official plan. Suitability of the land, it's a good, fairly flat piece of property. Affordable housing, it's one parcel, so we don't dictate or regulate anything regarding affordable housing for one piece of property. Any highways and issues thereon would be addressed by the county. Dimensions and shape of the lot, it is regular in shape, it is rectangular. There are no restrictions for development, save and except standard zone regulations. Any natural resources or flood control are not being impacted. The water course is on the opposite side of the abutting property. We do not have municipal services available in the area. We do not contact schools regarding consent to sever. We do regarding subdivision proposal. Nothing is being dedicated to the township, and we are recommending parkland dedication cash in lieu. Conservation of energy, not applicable, and site plan control is our standard site plan control bylaw. We do look at that for new house development, but it is on a very reduced level. So I do again believe that the proposal is in keeping with the Planning Act, the provincial policy statement, the township official plan, and the township zoning bylaw. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sandra. Before I let you have too much of a break, would I be correct in thinking that the author of the letter in support of this application is in fact a registered, recognized planner?
Yes, she is.
Thank you. Moving to the audience, we acknowledge that the applicant is here and we will be back to you in just a few minutes. Let me go to the rest of the audience and ask, are there any persons here in support of the application? Thank you.
Hi, I'm the author of the letter, Jennifer Current. My address is 10 Teresa Street, Coburg, Ontario, although it's in Hamilton Township. Postal code K9A 0Y1. I'm here if anybody has any questions with respect to the letter that I provided or has any questions with respect to the D6 guidelines from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks with respect to land use compatibility between a new sensitive land use, which would be the new severed lot, proposed severed lot, and the designated employment lands that are immediately to the west of it. I'd just like to note that the D6 guidelines apply to existing, proposed, or committed industrial uses. And it's my understanding that there hasn't been any applications or pre-consultation with the municipality or the county regarding any employment uses on that property. So I'm here to answer any questions if you have any questions for me. If not, I'll just sit back and listen. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question when you're at the podium.
Sure.
And it's around the word guidelines. I've heard that several times in both our staff report, in your letter, I believe, and again now. Is my thought of a guideline being a guideline exactly what it is in this particular case?
If you mean is a guideline an inherent requirement. No, you are correct. A guideline is a guideline. A guideline's not a policy. A guideline isn't a regulation. It is just that. It's a guideline. It's something to give people a general rule to go by. And the purpose of the influence areas noted in the D6 guidelines are an investigatory area. And if there was an industrial use and a severed lot was proposed within the influence area, then you have to look at the potential impacts on that severed lot. And depending on the outcome of any studies that were done, the actual separation distance can be determined. So, and again, the separation distances outlined in the D6 guidelines are just that, they're guidelines. They haven't been put in place. Usually guidelines form policy, and then policies are implemented through the regulations in your zoning bylaw. And that's how you come up with actual separation distance.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll go to the audience still. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll see if there's anyone else in support of the application. Seeing none, is there anyone present in opposition to the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here seeking clarification on the application? Seeing none. To the applicant, would you like to speak to the topic, or would you, would you like to position yourselves both between you and your agent that's here today if we have any questions?
This is Wilson Bain.
Yeah, Wilson Bain, 9467 County Road 2.
One of the recommendations or suggestions in the planning report was a possibility of reducing the lot frontage if the committee felt that was appropriate. And I have discussed it with Wilson, and Wilson has agreed that if that is what the committee requires, then he would be amenable to reducing the front yard by 4 point whatever meters, I forget the number, was in the planning report. He would be agreeable to that.
Thank you. I'll go to committee members. I'll go around the room. I'll start with you, John. Any questions or comments? Larry, questions or comments? Mark, questions, comments? Bruce? It would seem as though we don't have any questions.
Thank you.
That being the case, our next bit of business would be for a motion, please. Mark?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the application with the additional, recommendations. And I guess with I think it's 5 meters or 4.7 meters that you mentioned.
Reduction in frontage.
Yes.
Okay, been moved, seconded by John. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Yeah, it meets the provincial policy statement and our official plan. And really all the agency comments were supportive of the application.
And impact of public input.
There was some with the original meeting, but as of today, they were
Addressed.
come to a conclusion.
Is that sufficient, Sandra, or would you like additional? There was obviously support, letters of support as
Yeah,
well.
one support, one. So the matters were addressed regarding, with respect to the reduction in frontage. That matter was, okay. I think I can. Wordsmith this a bit. Thank you. Thank you.
And I, from my perspective, although I didn't make the motion, can't make the motion. The concept of the document being a guideline, I think, is of value as well. Okay, moving on to new business. application B 02, 03, and 04. 23 being consent to sever 3 individual properties in the name of Wayne and Norma Cunningham. Sandra, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in respect of 2174 Cunningham Road at the intersection of Danforth Road. Mr. Bob Clark of Clark Consulting Services has been identified as the agent for the applicants. The notice of public meeting was circulated to the public on March 22, 2023. The signs were posted on the property on March 27, 2023, in accordance with the regulations of the Planning Act. I do also note that due to the weather during one of the weekends, some signs did come down, and Clark Consulting Agency was quick to call and request replacements, and they were put up immediately as well. These applications are seeking to sever 3 new lots for residential and agricultural uses as follows. Application B 02, which is the most southerly of the proposals. A lot of approximately 4.62 acres with approximately 319.55 feet of frontage on Cunningham Road. Application B 03, 2023, which is the middle of the 3 proposals. Again, a lot of 4.62 acres with 319.55 feet of frontage on Cunningham Road. And application B 04, 2023, being the most northerly of the 3 proposed lots. Again, 4.62 acres in area. However, this is proposed to have 473 of frontage on Cunningham Road. The retained land with house and outbuildings will have approximately 11.88 acres of land and 742 feet of frontage. The proposal does appear to be consistent with provincial policy statement to direct building on the rural character of the area. Residential development is including lot creation that is locally appropriate. We have to take into consideration expanding livestock facilities and minimum distance separation calculations, individual on-site sewage and on-site water services. Taking all that into consideration, it's the opinion of this department, the proposal is in keeping with the provincial policy statement. With respect to the township official plan, the property is designated rural, and there are deposits of high mineral aggregate resources identified. Section 6.2 of the official plan does speak to the rural designation policies, and section 10 speaks to the deposit of high mineral aggregate policies. The proposal does appear to be in keeping with these policies. Given that there is already significant development in the area near the pits that are on the north side of Highway 401, these 3 new lots would not be impactful on the expansion of the pit. And I don't believe that that's a concern. I've also looked at section 11 of the official plan, which are the general development policies. The frontage size and shapes of the lots is applicable to the rural residential nature of the developments. So zoning amendment will be required. The proposal does not create strip developments. Minimum distance separation calculations have been completed. There are existing, there's an existing barn on the parent property on the retained parcel. I'm given to understand that is no longer in use, but I did complete MDS calculations. A minimum setback of 81 meters is required between the existing building, which is the small building between the round white one and the longer white one. It's a little square gray one. So a minimum of 81 meters is required, and the proposed setback is over 240 meters to the new lot line. So MDF cash in lieu of parkland will be requested, and along with other conditions. The rural designation consent policies under section 11.422 does permit a maximum 3 consents for residential uses. This is the first, second, and third proposal from the property as it existed in 2003 when the official plan came into force. It does appear, in my opinion, that the proposal is in keeping with the township official plan. The zoning bylaw, the property as it sits today is zone marginal agricultural, which does require 5 acres of land and 200 feet of frontage. The proposed lots are going to be a bit smaller than that, so zoning amendment to rural residential would be appropriate. And it's the opinion of this department that the lots can be brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. Agency comments, Conservation Authority noted various permits may be required if there's development or site alteration near the creek that runs through the wooded area of the retained parcel. But otherwise, they have no objection to the applications. They do note the proposed severed lot B04 is located next to a water course and the associated floodplain. The lot is outside of the hazard, so again, they have no objection to that particular severance. Township Building Department, no objection. Hydro 1, no comments or concerns. Township Public Works, no objections. Entrance permits will be required. Ministry of Transportation, the grants do not fall within their permit control area and have no comments. And the County Planning Department, there are no matters of provincial and county interest pertaining to this development proposal. In summary, the county and provincial land use policies allow lot additions in the rural areas, provided that the lots are appropriately sized for rural uses. Where livestock exists on or in proximity to the proposed lots, the applicant should demonstrate compatibility with minimum distance separation, which we have. The proposed lot is appropriately sized for on-site sewage and service and future dwelling. Permits required, and to prevent unintended natural severances and where conditions of severance are not concurrently addressed, county suggests the proposed lots be finalized in sequential order, which I had proposed as well. Based on the foregoing, the county has no objection. So in conclusion, upon review of the governing documents, it appears that the proposal for 3 new lots would meet the intent of the planning documents. It's recommended that application B0223 be granted, subject to the following conditions. Submission of a reference plan identifying the new lots, completion of a zoning application, rezoning to rural residential, payment of park levy, $1,500, payment of taxes, and the submission of 3 hard copies of the new deed for stamping within 2 years. It's recommended that application B03 be granted provisional consent, again with this exact same conditions, with the addition of the applicant shall provide a copy of the registered deed in respect of the lot described under B0223 before I can stamp the deed for this one. And again, B04 is recommended approval with, again, the same conditions, but that the registered deed with respect to B03 be submitted before I stamp the deed for B04. I can explain that further if it's necessary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sandra. Now, obviously, we have positive comments in our report. I think that it should be recorded that our applicant is here and will be coming back. And I believe agent is here as well, will be coming back. We'll simply go to the rest of the audience and say, is there anyone here other than the applicant or agent in support of the application? Is there anyone here in opposition to the application? Is there anyone here seeking clarification to the application? Seeing none, that shall be recorded, and I will come back to the applicant and or agent if you wish to speak, or maybe just answer questions.
Mr. Chairman, my name's Bob Clark, and I'm the agent for the applicant. We were hoping that these could be 5-acre lots and obviously avoid the rezoning bylaw amendment requirement. But because of the comments from the Conservation Authority, we were required to set back from the wooded area and the stream, and that meant that the lots had to be reduced. Um, I don't have any further comments other than just to explain why we didn't get to 5 acre lots. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions if you have.
I have a question in respect to that. What's our smallest lot size in comparison to the provisions in the rule zone?
Each of the proposed lots is 4.62 acres, 1.87 hectares. That exceeds the minimum requirements of rural residential. It does not quite meet the minimum requirements of marginal ag, which is 2 hectares or just shy of 5 acres.
Questioned. Would the opportunity to keep it in a rural zone, being a special rural zone, to recognize a slight difference in lot area be of benefit, or is the rural residential zone suitable for future use?
Well, it's the same zoning application. I would prefer to leave it in the rural zone because the intention is that these be used for market gardening. But that's a decision, I suppose, subject to what the committee feels. I'm content to go either way.
I'll leave it as a question. I believe that can be discussed into future prior to the rezoning application.
Certainly.
At this particular level, we will simply be making a condition of rezoning.
Correct.
So that can be considered at a later time.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Okay, thank you.
It's appropriate that we have three different motions here. So in respect to application B02-23, could I have a motion, please? Moved by John for approval with the conditions. We actually are just able to deal with B02 at this point in time? Yes. Okay, so your motion stands with respect to B02. We have a seconder, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of Harry, thank you. You want to go individual reasons, or do you want to do the group at the end?
Depends who the mover is.
Okay, you have to stay one-on-one. John, your reasons. Anything further by the seconder? Okay. And we did get a carried on that, did we not? Yes, we did to get to the, yeah, we're good. B03-23. Do we have a mover, please? So move. Seconder? Bruce. All those in favor? Carried? Reasons, yeah.
Same as above. I'm willing to do that. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. B04-23. Moved by John. Seconder. Larry. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? John.
And of course, there was no public input, so that's good. Thank you very much.
You have received conditional approval for 3 severances. You will receive notification. There will be requirements for you to follow through on. Please don't let the time expire. that's required. Thank you. Moving on, just a restatement, B 0523 has been withdrawn from today's. Sorry, I should use proper terminology here. Has been removed from the current agenda. Seeing no other business, we are at the adjournment time. Would someone like to? Is one or two hands at this moment? Moved by Mark, seconded by